Hey everyone, my name is Jake and welcome to r/maliciouscompliance. And quickly before this video starts, I just want to say, like 60% of you aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you did subscribe, we could hit 100k really fast, and that would be really awesome, so thank you and please do that. But without any further ado, let's get right into the stories. Sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish. I work at a hotel as a night auditor, and this malicious compliance begins with a small bit of information I was told when I was initially hired for this position. When I interviewed for the position, and this is very important later on, I was told by the HR lady that the hotel paid a bonus $100 for each foreign language I spoke well enough to serve our guests. Management cleared my $100 for speaking English after I passed through their evaluation period. My main language is Portuguese. At first, I was glad to be working in the night shift, mostly because my colleague then, Mr. Castillo, was from Guatemala. So whenever any guest that spoke Spanish showed up, he handled it, and in turn, I handled any English-speaking foreigners. Naturally, he did a lot more work since the amount of Spanish-speaking guests we receive is significantly larger than our English-speaking ones. Meanwhile, Mr. Castillo was in the process of learning English and I had taken an interest in Spanish, so we helped each other out. Not long after, Mr. Castillo got himself a job paying several times over what the hotel did, and sadly left me. My new colleague, a newly promoted bellboy, didn't speak English, though he could understand some, and didn't speak Spanish at all. In fact, he didn't even try to improve any of his language skills, while I slowly kept improving my Spanish, trying to use more and more of it every day to serve our dear guests. As of the start of this month, I spoke to our front desk manager and asked him in plain Spanish, what did I have to do exactly to receive the $100 bonus for speaking Spanish? He was surprised but said nothing more, since the front desk got busy with checkouts and my shift was up. But a few days later, he mentioned he spoke to HR and informed them I was speaking Spanish well enough to receive my bonus. And now he was waiting to hear back from them. A few days later, the HR lady asked me what size shirt I wore, since they were going to be ordering new uniforms in the coming weeks. And I took the opportunity to ask her about my bonus for Spanish, and she mentioned they were talking with our director about it. A day later, she informed me they wouldn't be paying me the bonus for a foreign language, since it was on file that I was already receiving it. I replied I was receiving a bonus for English and not Spanish, and she said she would speak to the director again, and within a few days all would be made well. Now, I'm not really in a hurry to get my bonus, but it would be nice if they had cleared it already, as it would show up in my next paycheck. But guess what? They didn't. Our director talked to HR again, and my boss, and told them that even though I am serving our dear Spanish-speaking guests in Spanish, I don't in fact speak Spanish. I'm far from fluent, but I can explain how the hotel works, direct guests to where they need to be, and assist them with what they need. Be it finding a pharmacy at 3 AM or getting a cab out to go and get drinks. But apparently it isn't good enough for our director, and my manager said he can't really afford to fight him on it. Okay, no biggie I guess. Maybe we can try again next year when I can speak a little better, I thought. However, the cruel and unforgiving gods of the hotel industry gave me the perfect opportunity to strike back. Earlier last week, we received a large group of 30+ Spanish-speaking tourists, which, in addition to our normal occupancy, meant we were effectively sold out for the week. Big groups are usually a minor inconvenience when you're checking them in, but an even bigger problem was when checking them out. Especially if they're one person per room, which means you basically have a huge load of rooms to check out, one by one, while an endless line forms in front of the front desk. 80 plus checkouts aren't unusual for our hotel on Friday mornings, but 110 plus is a problem. Normally, when the morning shift has a workload this big, our front desk manager comes in early to help, but he couldn't this time since he took a personal day off since his mother fell ill. That left our director with only one choice: to ask the night audit to stay late and help until our reservations people clocked in and could then replace us at the front desk. See, my colleague doesn't like staying late, especially since he works at a second job with his father in the afternoon, meaning he only has the morning and early afternoon to sleep. I don't like staying late on Fridays because of the amount of checkouts, which mean it'll be forever before you can take a breath and even more so before you can leave. However, this time, our director didn't even ask my colleague and instead told me to stay late because we would have a sizable workload and about a third of it would require someone that spoke Spanish, or it would slow down everything to a crawl. I told him I would not be staying late that morning, and before I could get another word in, he started yammering about how I'm wrong and I should be more of a team player, and that he would be very grateful for it. Wanting to get back to my sleep, I told him to ask my colleague and he said he couldn't, that he needed me, and when I asked him why, he clearly stated, "We need 2 Spanish speakers that morning to make sure everything goes okay with the checkouts." Not one for missing an opportunity to get payback, I replied, "Sorry boss, I don't speak Spanish," turned off my phone and went back to sleep. Update. Sorry for holding out on the aftermath. I wrote this during my shift, and as I was putting on the finishing touches, we had a server crash, and I spent the next hour and a half trying to restore our backups and get the camera system up again. Update number 2, the aftermath. After I woke up and turned my cell phone back on, I had several missed calls from the hotel and 2 missing calls from our front desk manager, who's a good guy. I called back the hotel, but the afternoon shift picked up and they didn't know anything, so I called my manager's phone. He answered and asked me what was going on because the director was furious about me hanging up on him and that I was refusing to work. I explained to him the situation in regards to my bonus for speaking Spanish, and since the hotel was trying to hold out on me, I was going to withhold performance. Anyone who's ever worked customer service knows how much damage withholding performance can do, even if it's just a little. In the end, my manager begged me to stay until our reservations people came in at 8 AM, because my shift ends at 7:20 AM. I agreed on the condition that I would not check out anyone who spoke Spanish. He reluctantly accepted and said he would back me up in the following mess that would happen. What happened was that the group came down for breakfast precisely at 6:40 AM, finished at 7:10 give or take, and went back to their room to collect their belongings. At this time, the 2 front desk attendants of the morning shift had arrived, as well as our bellboy, plus there was me and my colleague waiting to punch out and go. We had already started checking people out, and this day was particularly busy. We had 3 or 4 people waiting to be checked out, and it doesn't help that we only have 3 computers for 4 people to work with another computer for us to check the cameras. When 7:20 AM came up, my colleague quickly picked up his things and left, and I took over his spot. At this time, the first few people in the group started coming down and they already had to wait since we were all checking out other people. A few minutes later, I got the first one, but I told them I couldn't check them out since I don't speak Spanish, and asked them to wait for my colleagues to become available. In the end, I ended up refusing service to 10 or so people, which started forming a line right in front of the front desk, which only grew since other guests assumed they were all in line to be checked out. My colleagues on the morning shift were not happy at all. The guests were less than satisfied, and when the first of our reservations people showed up at 8 AM, I logged out, punched out, and went home. By that time, there was a 20+ line of people waiting to be checked out by 2 overworked receptionists, only one of which spoke Spanish. In the ensuring mess that happened, the hotel's director arrived at 8:30 AM in an attempt to minimize the anger of the centipede-like line who formed in the front desk, started chatting with the guests and otherwise trying to distract them so they would be less angry and avoid giving the hotel a poor review. I got a mild chewing out by my manager for poor work ethic instead of being written up. True to his word, he backed me up when the director called him in HR for a meeting regarding my actions. You can't demand someone speak a language that you know they don't know, right? I still haven't gotten my bonus for speaking Spanish, and I let my manager know that I will not be speaking any Spanish while on the job until they give in and give me my hard-earned bonus. If this worker goes out of their way to learn Spanish for the job and they say, oh, we'll give you a bonus because it's actually benefiting them a lot, just pay the $100. Like, it's such a good skill to bring to the table. Throw away my stuff? Thank you. So, a long time ago, I was in a relationship and ended up living with him. During the move to our apartment and the period after that, his true colors came to light. He was mentally abusive and manipulative. He would try to control every aspect of my life and try to teach me my place. I later learned he had borderline and was possibly a psychopath. But he didn't get diagnosed until the last few months of our time together. This story is not about those details, but it paints a small picture. So when I finally decided to leave him, he got very angry, and when he realized his control over me was slipping away, he started harassing me, my mother, and my best friend M. He accused me of cheating on him and said I have been for months, put it on the book of faces for everyone to judge me, etc. We had like 5 months left on the rent contract of our apartment, and I had every intention of moving out in peace and just be done with it in a civil manner. We sort of had like a taking turns at home arrangement going on, but for every 3 weeks he was there, I had one. When we broke up, I said that I didn't want to leave him high and dry, and would help with these last months while temporarily living with my mother. He didn't really have anywhere to go, just a friend. But when we still had like 3 months to go, he was sure of the fact I was in bed with my best friend and even went to his house to confront us. One of the housemates let him in. I was in the city with my friends, and my best friend was at his parents' house. But my ex was sure we just locked the door to the room for him, and apparently he stood there knocking for almost 2 hours, and then sat in his car outside for another hour and a half. He left me and my mother voicemails calling me all kinds of names, and he texted me that I had 2 days to move my stuff out of the apartment, and after that he would throw it all away. And I was so happy he came to this idea, because at this point I was done, and he didn't seem to realize what the consequences could be. So the day after, I got help from my brother, stepfather and stepbrother and moved my stuff out. I had just 2 conditions. Is it mine? And do I want to take this? Meaning if it was mine and I didn't want it, he could throw it away. There was a lot left that was very big, so to move it, you would either need to rent a van, like the couch, or it had to be disassembled, like the closet. I left it all behind for him to clean up, or in his words, throw away, as it was all bought by me. He came home that evening and got super angry and tried calling me dozens of times in a few hours, then texted me why the heck I left such a mess and didn't take all of my stuff. I answered he told me himself he would throw everything away after 2 days, and added a nice little screenshot with a red circle around his own words. To make matters worse, I stopped paying the rent the last months. You see, the contract was in his name only, and I transferred my half to his banking account every month. The person who rented to us knew of this arrangement and was fine with it. I called her beforehand to explain everything and that I wouldn't support him the last months, knowing he couldn't pay the rent by himself. She understood completely and said that since I was not contracted, she would not be able to hold me responsible. You can imagine the storm of verbal doo-doo that came over me after he realized I wasn't paying. And I just told him, "You wouldn't pay for a place you don't live anymore either. My stuff isn't even there anymore. You threw it away." And someone replied with probably the best response to this is, "And the best part, you didn't do anything to him. You didn't screw him over in any other way, then stop what you've been doing." So yeah, he deserved every bit of that. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.